So, let me introduce Kathleen Palm, who is a little light, a little dark, and a lot weird, living in an old, sadly not haunted house in Indiana. She watches horror movies, reads scary books, drinks chocolate milk, and plots how to spread light through the darkness. Her short stories have appeared in the anthologies Blackberry Blood, a quaint and curious volume of Gothic tales, The Big Book of Things That Go Bump in the Night, Winter Horrorland, Dark and Dreary, a basement horror anthology, and Monster Monday. Her stories have also appeared in Shortwave Magazine and Dark Dead Things Issue 2, as well as on the Tales to Terrify podcast. But her truest creepy love is middle grade horror. Into the Gray and Within the Black, books 1 and 2 of the Nowhere series are out from Undertaker Books, and book 3 is coming in August 2026. Welcome to the stream, Kathy.
Thank you very much for having me.
Happy to have you on. It's been close to 3 years since I've had you on, I think.
Oh, when Gray came out, yeah.
It was before Into the Gray.
Right before, yeah. 2022, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 2022. Exactly. So yeah, it has been a journey. You had the book come out, and then it came out again, and here you are with Within the Black.
Yay!
So I know this isn't in my prep questions for you, but I guess everybody maybe give them a quick synopsis or a quick rundown of what's going on in book 2 here.
Okay, yeah, let my brain do that. This is going to be rambly and weird, but here we go.
I would expect
So,
nothing less.
Within the Black, book 2 in the Nowhere series, follows 12-year-old Will as he's dealing with the death of his mom, and he ends up in Nowhere and finds that it can take away his pain by numbing it, by sinking with it into the black. Um, but that's not always the best thing to do, is to forget. And he learns that he's very angry, and he has to figure out that he doesn't want to forget, but he also doesn't want to be a monster, and has to choose to face his pain, basically. Weird and
That
rambly.
sounds that I wouldn't say that was rambly at all, actually. So, having been someone who read Into the Gray, I'm going to ask: does the black have to do with the gray, or is this a completely different world, alternate
Well,
place?
yeah, it's still Nowhere, but Nowhere is changing. You saw a little bit the end of Gray when she met the Keeper. At the end, the big dark monster. He's a bit more of a character in book 2,
Mm-hmm.
as he kind of tries to take over Nowhere. So he doesn't want people to come help Nowhere and help the lost things. He wants it all for himself. Um, so the black becomes a bigger thing in book 2. So as book 1, we kind of are introduced to Nowhere, and how helping the lost, and but also Ember was lost herself, and so it helps her as well. In book 2, it's more of a Will using this other part of Nowhere, this black that's in Nowhere, to forget and not help the lost, which in turn helps to kind of, it's not so good for Nowhere. Let's just say it's not so good for Nowhere. So this is a little darker book than book 1, um, where it's not as much facing or defeating the monster as it is trying not to become a monster yourself.
Gotcha. Well, sounds exciting.
It was a hard one to write. Will's very well, he's not dealing very well with the death of his mom, so it was a very hard one to write.
Well, I can appreciate a tough story to write for sure.
Yes, you can.
All right. Well, I mean, we're not done talking about book 2, but book 3 coming out in August 2026. And I saw a post just yesterday that you'd sent it off to the publisher.
I did. It's been
That's exciting.
I've been living in nowhere for a very long time, and I'm very happy to not be here for a minute. But yeah, I got book 3 done. It wasn't due until February, but I was done. And I said, "Here, please have it." And she said, "Thank you." And I was like, "Great." So, so it's gone.
Well, I mean, at least the positive side of having it done early is you do get that break a little bit. Um, and maybe this isn't the right question, but do you have plans to stick around in nowhere afterwards?
I have zero plans to stick in nowhere. Book 3, you will find that I finish up Nowhere's arc. Oh, Nowhere, each book has its own main character, and each character has their own arc. But over the 3 books, Nowhere has its own arc, and in book 3, I end Nowhere's arc very nicely and wrap everything up. And there's no other stories from that have Nowhere in my head left. So we're gonna be done.
No more stories in your head with nowhere in them today.
No other stories though.
Just today. Tomorrow's another story.
No.
All right. Well, Green Mean just asked the question I was going to ask next, which is, where are you going to be going next in your writerly travels in story?
I have this. Okay, so Stephen King's The Shining is my favorite Stephen King book, and I love it. And I'm going to do The Shining for middle grade.
The Shining for
So
middle grade. Okay.
I love the idea of places being twisted by people and emotions and things, and how that can then mess with the people who are there in the places. So I am I am starting to brainstorm an entire history and past and terrible things for this giant building before this poor kid moves in. But it's going to be a book about not being who you should and being who you are. It's going to play with edges and walking the lines you think you should. And the building is also going to be doing that because it thinks it should be something, but it's not. And it has been so many different things that it's having a bit of a crisis. So as my 12-year-old Poe wanders through this building, also struggling with who they are, whereas thinking what they should be, the building is also going through that. So it's going to be a weird, twisted, haunted building that's going to mess with these and their mom.
So it sounds like you already have a lot of this, if not written, definitely planned.
It's been building up in my head for a while as I've been finishing the Nowhere books. So it has been, little things have been coming to my head a lot, and I have a lot of little notes. But the big part is this building that's been around for hundreds of years or whatever, 100 years, I forget how long it's been around, but it's been family home and orphanage, and it's been abandoned, and it's been all these things. So I have to have a whole bunch of history so that we can run into the ghosts, if you will, of the past and all the darkness that has settled within this building and twisted it. So that's my main work. I didn't realize how much work that I gave myself for that, but I gave myself a lot.
Mm. Well, I mean, taking on a retelling of a modern horror classic is certainly a journey to undertake. So I guess good luck.
Thank you. I've had people tell me I can't possibly write middle grade The Shining, and I went, oh,
Oh, that sounds like a challenge accepted moment. I can't. You can't, maybe.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that probably dovetails this nicely into the question of what makes mid-grade horror mid-grade.
Okay, so for me, middle grade horror lives a lot in school and the home and friends and family. You don't go outside of that much at all. Like YA, you venture out more into the world and try to find your spot in it, whereas middle grade stays mostly tucked in school and home. Um, and does play with, your themes of who you are a little bit, of what you like, of discovering yourself through things, but dealing with, you can deal with trauma in the past, you can deal with fear of the future, you can deal with um, fear in general, bullies, and all sorts of things that middle graders face that we forget that they face, or we look at them and say, well, you're too young for that or whatever. But middle graders see a lot, and they hear a lot, and they deal with a lot. um, so but it mainly stays within home and school and friends and family, and not so much as driving to the next city over by yourself and going to somewhere by yourself. So uh, it stays wrapped up in a pretty nice little world. uh, just you see peaks of what's out in the world here and there, but mostly it just stays in its own little spot.
Getting some comments in chat. Yes, I keep on saying mid-grade. I really do mean middle grade. I don't know why I can't get that untangled. Um, that's a me problem, not an anyone else problem. All right. So why is middle grade horror important as a genre then?
Yeah, I started to go into that before I had to rein myself back in. Horror is a scary word for a lot of people, but what people don't understand is it's how broad the genre is itself. It deals with so many things. For middle grade, I mean, kids deal with bullies, they deal with abuse, they deal with grief, um, deal with trauma, anxiety, they deal with depression. There's all these scary things that middle graders deal with all the time. And sometimes they don't have people who will listen to them. Sometimes they don't know who to talk to or how to say things. Granted, a lot of adults don't know how to do that either, but
True.
um, so sometimes, and horror is a really really great way to talk about a lot of these things. And I think if you get the middle graders out there struggling with something or another thing, and you find a book where the main character is also dealing with the same thing, it can help them find tools to help them deal with stuff, or kind of understand what they're going through or how they feel, if it's related to it. If even if you pick up a book and the main character is dealing with something you've never dealt with, it's also very nice to have a different point of view out there. You can see, how others feel and how others might be feeling, and build a little empathy maybe, and and understand that your perspective on things isn't the only one. Um, and kids like scary stuff. Some of
They
them,
sure
most of
do.
them, a lot of them, they like scary stuff. And sometimes you just want to read a book where the person defeats the monster. Sometimes you want to read a book where a character deals with big issues and actually finds a way to get through it. Well, I don't know, sometimes it's just nice to be able to have a book that you can close when you need to, and then think about it later. You can leave the monster in the page for a second and leave the book, go think about things, see how you feel about things, go back to the monster later. It's nice to have books where, the characters, middle grade characters, can find power. Because some kids don't think they have power much at all. And I really think horror is one of the best ways and the best genres to get to those things.
Well, I am inclined to agree with you. Green Bean says, as a former middle school teacher and parent of 6, I appreciate your effort to reach that age level. They need all the love they can get.
They do.
Mitchell had a question. How did you get into writing for this genre? I mean, I know the answer is because you've always been in this genre.
I never like set out to be a writer in general. I like to draw as a kid. Wanted to be an illustrator. But if I have to admit it, when I look at what I would draw, I drew characters and I drew worlds and I drew weird stuff, and I always had writing next to it about who this person was or what this world was. And so if I look at it now, I can see I was a storyteller. I just didn't know it. I started writing fantasy because that's what I read. But eventually the fantasy got a little darker and got darker. And then suddenly I wasn't fantasy anymore and I had fallen into horror. I had somebody at one point look at me and say, "This book you're writing, it's really cool. Why isn't it for middle grade? It seems middle grade." And I went, "Middle grade?" And so I went, "Huh." My brain went, "I don't know if you can write middle grade." And I said, "Yeah, I don't know." And then at some point, the nowhere idea popped into my head, and I knew it was a middle grade book. It was a long, windy road to get here, but I did it.
Well, we've got some long, windy questions too, so I guess buckle up as far as that goes. Green Bean's got a question, and I kind of have a sub question to go with it. So she says, do you illustrate your books? And before you get a chance to answer that, what was it like to have your daughter illustrate one of your stories?
Okay. Yes, I wanted to be an illustrator and I would love to do my own things. And I do use my drawing to do bookmarks and stickers. So when I have bookmarks and stickers for books, those are what I have done. That it kind of gives me my own. It satisfies that need for me because as much as I'd love to do my own cover, the publisher had someone to do it. When I had my basement horror story accepted, and the editor came to me and said, "Hey, these people have like illustrations, so we're taking illustrations if you have any." And I went running to my daughter, who is an art major. She's in her final year, and I said, "Listen," and I love her style. It goes great with my words. And I said, "Listen, you want to have an illustration in a book?" And she went, "What?" And I said, "Here's my story. Read it. Draw me a picture. I'm sending it in." And she went, "Really?" I said, "I'm sorry, you don't get paid. I'm only getting $20 for my story. I could share it if you want, but it's not." She said, she goes, "I don't need to get paid. I'll have my name in a book. That's enough." So she did the drawing and came to me, and well, she showed me sketches first. She actually like wanted me to participate. I'm like, "Just draw something. I'm fine." So she has her copy of that book and I have mine, and I signed my story in hers and she signed her drawing in mine.
Oh,
It was
that's
the best.
Great though. So is she going to illustrate more stuff of yours?
I would actually, I told her, "Listen, when I get my Shining book done," I said, "you should do some illustrations." And I said, "If I can get Undertaker books to publish it, maybe they would do it with illustrations because I think that'd be really cool." And she was like, "Okay." So,
Well, Undertaker, if you're listening, the answer is yes, do it. Excellent. Yeah, no, when I saw that, I was very excited for you both, frankly. That's great.
it was really cool.
All right. So I know we kind of diverged a little bit from why is middle grade horror important, but I did ask you to like come with some examples of what are some great books to start someone into middle grade horror. Like what's a great launching point for people?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot, like just like in grown-up horror, there's a lot of different middle grade horror, from quiet and creepy to really weird and kind of scary. So each kid's gonna have their
Disappearing
own.
House was very scary.
I love that book. That, that's one of my favorite drama ones. Oh my gosh. Anyway, um, but I mean, there's all sorts of different. Like we've got you can always find short story collections, anthologies. There aren't a lot of middle grade short story stuff. I'm in one now, and then there's two next year that I'm gonna be in, I think. But I found what is it? I find Only If You Dare by Josh Allen has 13 Stories of Darkness, and The Hand Behind the Door by R.C. Hill. That monster in the pool still haunts me to this day. So for short stories, for kids who maybe don't want to read a whole book right off the bat, you can always find collections. I know a lot of people grow up with scary stories to tell in the dark. I don't know. It
But
depends, I
that is
guess, on
something
your.
that's out there, right?
But that is a short story collection. Also, super fun. Goosebumps. Goosebumps still holds up. Um, just fun, one-off little stories where you fight the monster, move on. They're weird, they're creepy, just fun. And then John Ward writes the Scareville books, which are very similar to Goosebumps. They're coming out now. I think he's on book 7 or 8 right now. Ghost stories. There's always Mary Downing Hahn. She's been writing for a while. Like, she's not a new writer, but a lot of people grew up with her books. Solid ghost stories. Um, Lindsay Curry writes really nice ghost stories. Wendy Paris writes nice ghost stories. I have my books stacked on the floor because I didn't want to forget. Lorian Lawrence just had The Many Hauntings of the Manning Family come out this year. Ghost story, but also has possession in it, which I have never read possession in a middle grade book. This was fantastically done. A great story about twins, one of whom is trying to go out on her own and stop being in the box that her mom has kind of put them in and be different. And then the other one who kind of likes the box and isn't quite sure what he wants to do, but really creepy puppets in it. Jeez, scared me. But
What was the name of that one again?
Many Hauntings of the Manning Family by Lorian Lawrence. Super. I love that book. Of course, there's always, let's see, the weird Going to Other Dimension books of The Other Woods by Justine Pusella Winans. Super cool other world to go into. The Black Slide by J.W. Ocker. Okay, this one is really, really weird and really, I've heard people call it really scary. It is, basically they've enslaved children. You go down the slide, you end up in this other world where you're put in a cage and enslaved to do stuff for these weird alien things. So it was really scary, but it's really neat. I actually talked to him at Spooktastic and told him, said, listen, this was really different from what I've read and I really enjoyed it. And thank you for writing that. He's like, sure, no problem. There's always your monster books. I know a lot of middle graders know Trevor Henderson. He does Siren Head. He draws all the monsters, but he's written a book called Scare Waves, and the second one's coming out too now. And it's monsters, just weird, creepy monsters coming out to get kids. Super fun. And it's Trevor Henderson, so he drew his own cover, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. Jeff Strand, good scary scarecrow book. It Watches in the Dark. That was fun. Like a giant creepy scarecrow. The Clackety by Laura Semp. Her Blight Harbor series is fantastic. I happen to like The Night Housekeeper, which is the second book really much. I think that one's my favorite, but the Clackety is super good. The Clackety is super creepy, monster thing, and a good family story about searching for her aunt. Um, let's see. Oh, It Came from the Trees by Allie Russell. Bigfoot is real, and he steals children. And the kid, I this was a great book about friendship and about losing a friend that was just so dear to you that you won't give up the search, but also learning to make room for new friends. It was so I just and the monster is real, which made me happy because Scooby Doo has destroyed my entire life by showing me that every time they had a monster, it wasn't really a monster, and it made me upset.
I didn't really realize that Scooby-Doo has scarred you for life.
I didn't I got used to it, but I think there was a little bit of me every time I watched that show that I went, this time it's going to be a real ghost. And then it wasn't. And then, of course, you already mentioned Disappearing House. Ali Malinenko, I love her. She's delightful. Disappearing House, a great book about trauma. I love me some good trauma horror, mental health horror.
That was a
This book
tough
is
book to
about,
read. Oh,
gosh,
it
but
was so
it's
good, but
so good.
my goodness.
I know the kid who had cancer and then constantly fears it coming back, and
Yeah.
she has to learn not to let that just consume her. We all have a house to get through, as Allie would tell me. Mary Averling,
Oh, I
Ghosts of
just
Bitterfly
finished
Bay.
Curse of Eelgrass Bog.
I loved Eelgrass Bog. The twist at the end of
That was
that was
so
so
good.
good. Yeah, and then her Ghosts of Bitterfly Bay is really good.
Yeah.
About a kid who's so scared of the future and the unknown that they will then kind of, I don't want to give it away, make
Yeah, I haven't
decisions
read
that
that one yet.
will that one's good. I love that one.
All right. Well, you've given us about 40 suggestions, so that's a great place to
I
start.
know. Look,
So
it's
if
just
you are interested in middle grade horror, just pick up all 40 of those books. Also, Kathy's 2 books. And let us know when you're looking for more, because you'll want more.
you will. You'll find just the right books in there for you. There's so many different. It's so good out there right now for middle grade horror. There's
Yeah.
so many different kinds, and it wasn't for so like when I grew up, that wasn't a thing. Like I didn't have I didn't have middle
I mean,
grade horror.
Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was out, right?
Yeah, and then I had John Belair's. I found Spell of the Sorcerer's Skull. That was my in book as a kid. I still have that book from my middle grade years somewhere in my house. But yeah, well, and he did The House with the Clock in Its Walls, which I didn't read till much later. But this is just a drop in the middle grade bucket.
Yeah. We did have a response about the Scooby-Doo's monsters. As Mitchell said, Scooby-Doo's monsters were seemingly always middle-aged white men, and preceding to that, Green Bean said, people are the monsters, which is, frankly, true.
Well, that is true. That is true. I do like Stephen King. He's a big people are monsters guy.
I swear, for my own work, easily half of the antagonists are not the scary monster in the story, but the people that are dealing with the scary monster. And that's something I'm coming to to grips with, I guess. All right.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much you're allowed to talk about this, but I did see you had a very vague announcement that you just had a new middle grade horror story accepted into an anthology. Can you tell us more?
It's Shane Bradley put out a post, I forget where I saw it, Instagram, somewhere, about wanting to write wanting to get authors together to do a middle grade anthology, and all the proceeds would go to a local animal shelter. And he wanted to know if anyone was interested. And I was like, sure. And I guess a whole bunch of people responded. And of course, I started to panic that I wouldn't have a story in time. So apparently I wrote mine much earlier than everyone, because he posted on Instagram later that he had one from me. And I was like, oh, good, because and it's called Carousel, and it's about being stuck in the past and realizing that you can't stay there. That you thought the past was so great and everything was perfect, but then things change, and it's hard to then come to grips with the change when you really thought life was perfect before. And it's a little creepy story about a kid who basically hears carnival music coming from the cornfield behind her house, and she's drawn to it because her mom and she used to ride the carousel at a fair every summer. It was the best time ever, and so she goes into the cornfield and follows what she thinks is her mom, and finds a carousel in the middle of a cornfield that's not really a carousel, and it goes really wrong for a minute, but a little creepy.
Well, that kind of goes well with Green Bean's comment. Oh, I like that premise of Carousel, except the creepy carnival music. Green Bean does not handle horror well, but I'm working on her. I actually, when I finished Curse of Eelgrass Bog, I handed it over to her. I said, "This is a book for you. This one's good." I mean, not that the other ones I've read haven't been good, but it's a horror that I think she can live with.
Yeah. Well, and my daughter told me she didn't like horror for most of her existence, and then suddenly a couple years ago, she's like, "Mom, I think I'd like to read some of your horror books." And I resisted the urge to get up and throw all of them that I had at her. But
It's
I've
frowned
also
upon to
learned
bury
what
your
she
children.
I've also learned what horror she can and cannot handle. So we started going to see horror movies together, and so some of them I'll go see by myself because I'm not sure what it exactly, like weapons. I wasn't exactly sure the level of weapons in horror. She doesn't do well with gore. But we went and saw The Long Walk, and that's kind of gory, but she had read that book, so she wanted to see the movie. She said, "It's okay, Mom, I just shut my eyes." I said, "Yeah, when the guy got run over by the tank." She goes, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Oh,
Good point to close your eyes, unless the tank is still coming at you.
good. Yeah.
Well, excellent. Well,
Yeah.
your book came out today. That's exciting.
It's exciting. It's strange. Because I don't know. Did people buy it? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
You're better off not knowing, at least for a few days.
Yeah, I don't know. Mm-mm. I don't know. It got pretty good reviews, early reviews from the ARC readers, so that was nice. It made me smile and be a little more confident about it. There's always that panic, right?
Can I ask you a question about ARC readers, since that's something I've been struggling with? Are you reaching out to them, or is that something that Undertaker is doing for you?
Undertaker did that one for me. They have tried to build street teams that they use a lot all the time with all their books. So they hired a marketer for my book release, and she has reached out to all sorts of places, which is why I have a signing at Sunbound Books next week and Barnes and Noble next week. That's all because of her. I reached out and got the blurbs from authors. That's what I did, and I took care of that. But then the marketer Undertaker found ARC readers, and they sent ARCs out, and I was like, thank goodness. This is too much. It's too much for one person. That's so much work. The self stuff is so much work.
Yeah, it is.
So I would love to tell you I found them all myself and here you go, but I did not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about the in-person events then. How
Yeah.
has that been going? How do you expect them to go? What do you hope from them?
I'm keeping my expectations low.
That's
I've
what
heard
I did.
I've heard many a story about people sitting at Barnes and Noble for 2 hours all by themselves and seeing no one, and I'm like, that's what I'll just expect then. Um, Barnes and Noble is a little different because I'm bringing in my book stock. They sell it and keep some money and then give me some, but they're still mine. So whatever we don't sell, I take back. So that's at
Okay.
least I don't feel like they've just spent money on books that now they're not going to sell. The little indie bookstore though is ordering books in, so I'm feeling really anxious about that because if they bring in books and nobody comes, then I'm just going to feel really terrible. Um, so I've been trying to reach out to as many people as I know, like the librarian at the school where my kids went to school. I sent her a thing about it to try and post at school. Um, she said she would happy to do. Thank you, librarians everywhere.
Librarians are awesome.
Totally. And so I've been trying to get the word out. We'll see what happens, but um, the closer I get to those, the just more nervous I'm gonna get. And then we'll just try and have a good time.
So you have those two signings. You have any others that are like in the pipeline to do, or is that all that there's going to be, do you think?
That's all I have now. I'm going to AuthorCon in Virginia, but just as um a me. I'm not I don't have a table or anything there. Um I'm debating on whether to table at StokerCon next year. That'll be before book 3 comes out, so I'll have 2 books I can sell there. I have to do better at talking to my Writers Association people and learning where events are because I kind of ignored them this year. Terrible of me, but I did. I ignored that. But I think it was weird with the book going away and then being re-released. I was my brain had a hard time with some of that. I was like, no, book's going away, and then it was back, and I was like, I don't know what to do with this. I think now with book 2 out, I'm feeling a little more like, okay, we have books out. You're okay.
Mm.
But I have to be better to find. They seem to have a lot up by Chicago, which is a 3-4 hour drive depending on where in Chicago you're trying to go. Um, Illinois, there just don't seem to be many right around here though.
Yeah.
I have to be better at finding those. I can sell all my stickers that I draw.
Well, not that I am at, at all an expert on these things. I will say that finding things is near impossible. And once you find them, it is inevitably like 2 degrees of either you're too early or you're way too late. It is maddening.
Yeah. We had a book event down by Indianapolis, which 2 hours for me. Hello, I can do that. But it went away. I went,
Oh,
no. But the Horror Writers Association, they know about all sorts of them. They work with all those people. So I'm really trying this year I have to listen to them and sign up for things if it's remotely near me at all. Then just suck it up.
have you had an opportunity to reach out to public libraries?
See,
Have you thought about it? Maybe I should say.
I yeah, I see I have a librarian who is in the Horror Writers Association who is I talked to her for a while because I'm like, listen, I write middle grade. but I'm with a small press, which means I don't get on shelves. I'm not in the bookstores, I'm not in the libraries, so the middle graders don't find me. Um, they're not looking on Facebook and Instagram for people to read. They're looking at funny videos or whatever. So, being on shelves is important, and I'm not on shelves. And she said, okay, we need to get you reviewed in this thing and this thing. And I'm like, how do I get reviewed in these things? So this is my fight
Hmm.
to get um next book Within the Black happened too fast, and these places want arcs like 4 months before, and I'm like, and then small Undertaker books had the arc for Black done, I think, like at the end of September, and I'm like, yeah, that's not 4 months before. So we're working now to get it done earlier next year, so hopefully I can get reviewed in some of these places that book list and school library journal is where like libraries will look for books to bring into their libraries. And she says, and once you get into the libraries, then suddenly you're like, hey, can I come talk to the kids at the library? Hey, can I come do this? You have my books. And she said, then you can start really doing that. And I'm like, sure, that sounds easy. No problem.
Well, my experience with it has been different. And I will say, maybe check a couple of other smaller libraries.
Just go to my little local one.
Yeah.
Could do that.
Like, you may not be able to draw in an audience that you want to be able to draw in, but you might. And
Yeah, start somewhere.
yeah, like I'll give a shout out to Hardwick Library, which is a teeny tiny town in Western Mass, West Central Mass. They hosted me for my little booklet of short stories when Breakfast came out. They hosted me when Anthropods came out. Like, I didn't have a huge crowd, but you know what? They were happy to not only have me, but also buy a copy of my book on the spot. And it was just nice.
Yeah, because I mean, I live in a little town and we have the little library. I should,
Yeah,
I should, yeah, I should go there. Thank you. I will try that.
I'm here to help in whatever ways I can. All right. And you just had a trunk or treat event, but that was like just like a regular trunk or treat event for a school. So it wasn't necessarily a book selling event.
That was okay. So, uh, south of Fort Wayne, so on the other side of the city from me, there's a haunted attraction called Hysterium. So they run during the weekends in September, October. I think they ran through last weekend, so now I think they're gone. But the lady who runs that put on Facebook and said, "Hey, any horror writers want to sell books at my gift shop for the haunted attraction?" And of course, my publisher spoke up with, "Hey, we have books." So she ended up with my book in her gift shop, and I don't know how many others from the Undertaker um, catalog at the gift shop. And then she said, "Hey, we're doing trunk or treat. Kathy does middle grade. These are, kids will be there. She can
That's a
hand
prime
out
target.
candy and exactly. And she said she'd sold, I don't know how many, 4 of my books during their thing. And I went, that's crazy. Cause that is I think buying a book at this haunted attraction would be like the last thing on my mind. And, and honestly, I was going to hand out postcards with information about the books. I was ready to hand out stickers and stuff to any kids who really did like to read creepy books. I didn't expect to sell books because you're coming for free candy. I didn't really think people were going to be like, oh, yeah, book shopping. But I did sell 3. I was really happy. And was funny because one kid picked up a book and she's kind of looking at it and reading it and she didn't put it down and her mom went, hang on, let me get you some money for that. And I was like, thank you, that's awesome. So yeah, I sold 3 and I was like, wow. And I gave away 200 pieces of candy. So And I got to have trick-or-treating, which was fun because out where I live, they don't trick-or-treat out here, so I've missed that.
Yeah, we don't have trick-or-treaters come by here either, but that's rural towns for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Sad though.
Yeah. All right. So we already covered what you expect out of them, which is nothing. And
Nothing. Just go have fun, man.
that is such a tough thing to expect, but that is exactly where I was trying to live when I was doing my own events. So you get two events. You have the indie bookstore. They're buying your stock.
Uh-huh.
And actually, if you wanted to give a shout out to the locations, I didn't think to grab those before we came on.
Oh, the little indie bookshop is Sunbound Books on North Anthony in Fort Wayne, Indiana. A really nice bookstore. Been in there a couple times. Purchased books. They finally got a horror section in there, so I'm like, woo! And they realized that they don't have a lot of horror middle grade, which is why they said, oh, that's they picked up and were selling Into the Gray because they realized they didn't have,
Mm-hmm.
they had Coraline, I think, that was horror middle grade, but they didn't have any more stuff. So when marketer Chloe reached out and said, hey, would you like to have an event for Within the Black? They're like, sure. And I went, oh. But yeah, Sunbound Books, the only indie bookstore in Fort Wayne. We have a couple of used bookstores, but that's the only indie one. And just such a nice little place. And I'm going to have to say stuff and probably read stuff and try not to faint.
Faint.
Yeah, don't faint.
Drink water.
Maybe there'll be a chair, drink water. But yeah, and then I'll be Barnes and Noble, which is in the mall in Fort Wayne on this the 22nd, and I just kind of figure I'll sit there for a couple hours and then leave. But, I'm bringing stickers and bookmarks and little glow in the dark stars and try and make friends with.
We have a comment in chat. Don't lock your knees.
Don't lock my knees.
That is an important public speaking. If you're standing up, don't lock your knees.
I did read at StokerCon last year, and I made it through that. Surely I can do it again.
Well, what did you read for StokerCon?
I read part of Gray, Into the
Right.
Gray. Yeah, and then I had friends who came to listen to me read and applaud really loudly, which was very nice of them.
What was the turnout like for StokerCon, like for your reading?
It wasn't empty. I mean, it wasn't packed full, but we didn't have. I knew there were big names reading at the same time in other rooms, so I didn't expect everyone to come to my room. But there was somebody who actually at Spooktastic. I was talking to somebody, and she said she was there and heard me read. She wanted my book, and I was like, "What? That's crazy."
Hold on, let me go outside and get a copy for you.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want one? You can have one. Just sit there. I will hand it to you. Yeah.
All right. I'm trying to watch the time, make sure we're not taking too much time here. So I basically have two more questions for you. And these weren't really on our list ahead of time. So these are going to be out in left field for you. But Green Bean was asking me, before you got your first sale, what kept you writing?
Well, the reason we all write, because we like it for some reason. Because the voices in your head they don't stop, and they keep saying, well, what about if this happens, or what about this story, or this character will start whispering to, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. and you have to write it down. And as much as it hurts us to write all the time and then revise everything 500 times, for some reason we enjoy it. I just, you know, we'd like for people to read it, but but I but the creating process of the story, I love brainstorming new things. I love coming up with new stuff. I like getting to the end of revisions and knowing that it's flowing well. I love getting the pace right. I love linking little things in the stories together. I love all these things that all come together. It's the creative process is my brain doesn't stop doing it. So you have to keep putting them out, or I'm afraid my brain would explode.
I feel like that's a better answer for my next question than I was expecting. So the next question from my dear daughter, who says, who even writes anyway? And I think that's
people
the
with
answer.
Voices in their head.
The voices in my head. But
yeah, you gotta
kids
appease
are wonderful.
the voices.
All right. Well, chat, do we have any further questions? And while you're thinking on that, I'll just remind you, Kathy's website is kathleenpalm.wordpress.com. You can get into the gray at that link there. You can get within the black. I'm trying to talk and type at the same time, and apparently it's not working today. You can get within the black at that link there. Check them out today. They are available as ebooks. They are also available in print, I imagine, right? The links that you gave me were ebooks. So, yeah. Okay.
Oh, are they? I didn't check.
Yeah, I didn't notice it till just this second. So, too bad for me to not look at that ahead of time. You're going to be at Sunbound Books in Fort Wayne, Indiana. What was the day on that?
Friday the 21st at 6 p.m.
6 p.m. Excellent. That's 6 p.m. local. I know everybody's used to me saying UTC.
That's Eastern.
And then Barnes & Noble, what day was that?
Saturday the 22nd from 1 to 3.
Excellent. Well, I don't know that I have anybody local to the area that is tuning in, but even if you're not, just take a quick little jaunt over to Indiana and just show up. It'll mean the world to Kathy.
So close.
Green Bean says, thanks for sharing. Always glad to hear another author's perceptions. Green Bean likes to support me.
Oh, that's nice. We all need friends to support us. Especially authors. Authors need author friends who understand.
Well, this is Green Bean, my partner. She always supports.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha.
All right. Well, everybody, this has been an absolute pleasure. Kathy, thanks so much for coming on. I'm sorry we didn't have great video quality today, and I'd rather focus on the chat anyways. And thanks so much. So if you will hold on just a moment, I'll say bye to chat and everybody, and then we'll close out here, okay?
Okay.